Thanks everybody for joining us here this afternoon. I'll try not keep you too long, but I'll try. Hopefully you'll walk away with something that you've learned from this today. So this is our second in a series of webinars focusing on BIM around SMEs in Ireland. So the first one focused on why an SME might use BIM, so looking at our BIM in an Irish context and how that might apply to your design business, particularly focusing on the construction industry and a lot around architecture as well, but also taking into account engineering and construction. My background being architecture, I tend to focus on that a lot, but I appreciate all disciplines are as important or the next, so I'll hopefully cover those today. So today's is how to use BIM on SME projects in Ireland. So just briefly a little bit about myself. I've worked in AEC firms since 2005. I graduated as an architectural technologist in 2009, and I've mainly worked across design, planning, tender, construction, and all stages of projects, including in civil and structural firms as well. I've also worked as a BIM manager in architectural practice. That was a practice of about 15 people, so a good example of an SME business using BIM. And I'm currently a BIM specialist covering Autodesk products and doing some BIM consultancy and training as well. So today's agenda, I'm going to go through some BIM workflows that you can hopefully implement in your SME business. And when I refer to SMEs, I mean anything from a one person architect or engineer working right up to any size design firm, 15 to 20 people. And obviously they can be applied to bigger practices as well. But I like to focus on making sure I account for the all size firms as well. I'll also just touch on the benefits of using BIM workflows over traditional design workflows and going through the reuse of information from design right through to completion and being able to reuse that information along your design and construction process as well. And then I'll discuss collaboration and being able to access information using cloud technologies. So as I went through briefly, I'll just recap on the previous webinar for those of you who weren't able to attend. I suppose BIM is a state of mind. It is a way of thinking. It's not just a piece of software. It is about people, processes, and software as well. So it's good to keep that in mind, and that it is a workflow, as I said, more than just buying a piece of software, so it's good to keep that in the back of your mind. And I suppose the overall picture is looking at connected BIM and connecting all of your project information across from design phase right through to construction phase, but not just within your design firm or your own firm, but looking at collaboration between other consultants as part of the project, and as well contractors as well, and building owners and developers. So you may be familiar with the BIM Wedge. You'll see this a lot in relation to the UK BIM mandate, but just looking at the different levels of BIM, I know there's a lot of talk around BIM level 2 and a lot of projects that are highlighted and case studied are focused on BIM level 2, but I hope today to somehow demonstrate that using BIM doesn't necessarily have to mean BIM level 2, and you can still comply with that by using BIM packages and BIM software. And we'll look at, I suppose, looking at BIM level 0 and then moving towards a BIM level 1. So kind of looking at using BIM as a 3D modeling tool and just to produce your drawings. And then hopefully moving forward, you can look at the future outlook of your business in 1 or 3 years, looking to move to a BIM level 2 progression. So hopefully today we'll focus on looking at BIM level 1 and getting you up to that point as well. So in the previous webinar as well, just to recap, I kind of touched on looking at the different stages throughout the project. So we had design stage, planning stage, and then moving through to detailed design stage, like the tender process, onto your construction stage, and the flow of information right through to the completion of a building. But looking at the flow of that information and where there could be losses of information, where information changes hands or goes between consultants, there can be a loss of information, whether that's from drawing versioning not being kept up to date, or from files being emailed and not being tracked appropriately, or just a failure in parts of the process. So we'll be looking at a more holistic process today by adopting BIM workflows. So just to put things in context, this is an example of a UK firm who've adopted Autodesk technologies, but they've also used what we know as Autodesk Forge, and they've created an online building designer that people can go in, design their own house. So this would be homeowners being able to design their house online, choose different designs, and the cost accordingly will increase or reduce depending what sort of additions or they take away from the house, and depending what size of the house. You can see on the right hand side there's a small dashboard in terms of the cost, the size of the house, and you're able to see what the house might look like in the 3D view. But just to put it in context where the industry is heading and what is being done out there at the moment, and that's worth looking at, and that's Creotimus, if I pronounced that correctly, and then it does some sort of energy analysis as well. But just looking at the I suppose extending architecture to being able to access it in an online browser, and being able to share that with potential homeowners or home buyers, and being able to give them the opportunity to design their house using cloud technologies. Now this is an example of a project in the Netherlands, where again it's taking it that step further, where you can actually buy a house online. So I'm just going to play the sound on this because there is a narration. So just to show that, or cover that as an example of where the industry is heading and where it is already at, I suppose, looking at other parts of Europe, that's where we're building and the industry is heading. So just to give that some context to what we're looking at today. So I suppose looking at the start of a project, some design challenges that we might face. So looking at separate 3D files being created. I've worked in architects' offices myself, and I've seen how this can be an issue. There's different versions, there's different people working on different design files, and they're in separate locations as well. We also have at times some static presentation, so it might be just a 2D presentation, which are they look good, they look well, but if you really want to stand out from your competitors, looking at BIM processes and BIM workflows, and some of the things I'll cover today, like virtual reality, will definitely help enhance your presentations. We also see a lack of 2D understanding from some clients. Some people find it difficult to interpret 2D designs and being able to visualize that. So hopefully things like virtual reality and 3D modeling can communicate your designs in a better sense as well. So also face-to-face physical meetings, they're quite valuable. They really help the design process along, but sometimes there are too many of them and they can take up a lot of time. But there are communication tools to be able to share your 3D designs in the likes of BIM360 and being able to share your design online with your clients who could be remotely, and you're communicating your design without taking out too much time for a face-to-face meeting. So it could be in between physical meetings that you share your designs online, and then the client can navigate these in 3D using the likes of BIM360. It also helps you be able to communicate your design intent better if you're able to use 3D models, virtual reality, and rendering processes as well that are quite simple to do and are as a result of your already used BIM process. We can also look at how looking at different design tools can help you win the next stage of a project. So whether it's a domestic or a residential or a large project, being able to communicate your design at an earlier stage can help you win the next stage of a project if it's not already guaranteed for any particular reason. And we also see challenges with 2D drawings being created and they're completely separate. So from an elevation to a section to a plan, they're completely separate 3D drawings. If one thing changes, they all have to be updated. And then also we find, as a result of that process as well, we find duplicated information as well. So just looking at design. So for example, we have a tool called Autodesk Format Pro, and this is quite similar to SketchUp and similar tools like that. And this allows you to capture designs. It can be used on an iPad within a browser, and I'll do a quick demonstration of it after this slide. And it allows you to create quick designs, extrude geometry, and geolocate them as well. This can be further integrated by pushing that information into Revit. So after you create your design within Format, you're able to add more detail to it. You're able to perform solar studies to see what radiation impact is on certain facades. And you can see in this, now it does show a square foot, but you can change the metric units on that to square meter as well, and kilowatt per hour of solar radiation. And you can also add materials, so adding quite photorealistic materials to be able to present your designs, adding brick to wall and glazing to windows, and being able to make it a lot more presentable to your clients as well. And then once you're moving along in the process, once you move from Format, you're able to import that geometry directly into Revit. And you can then convert all of that geometry. If you see that on the top of this image, we've got some white massing we've created in Format. We've then imported that directly into Revit, and we're able to convert all of those massing elements into walls, into roofs, into floors, and we're not losing any of that information from that process already. So I'm just going to jump into Format briefly just to show you how it works here. So it's just a 3D environment. You're able to obviously rotate in 3D. You're able to look at top plan views. So one of the first things I do, locate my site. So in my current hometown of Cork, I'm just going to search Cork. I'm just going to import the first location that comes up. So this brings in Google's Maps. It allows you to place the site there. It brings in the site automatically. You can see it there in 3D, and what that has also done is it's geolocated it, but it's pulled in all the weather information as well. So it pulls in wind and temperature and solar information as well. So I'm just going to go to a top view. I'm just going to draw some quick lines, a quick design of a building, and you can see it snaps there. It's perpendicular. I'll skew the back of the building. It is quite a large building. Jump back into my 3D view. You just click on it. You're able to extrude it then to whatever height you want. Now you can also add further detail to this. If you want to simply offset a frame or anything on the building, adding more detail. You want to extrude back your glazing, for example. And you can add more detail, so I've just done sort of a quick analysis of that. And you can see there's also a shadow coming off that, so that's a real world geolocated shadow because I've located this using Google Maps, and that allows me, I can change the date and the time, and I can export these images as JPEG, or I can even have a larger map to show the shadow effect on neighboring sites as well. So you can see how quickly that was to bring in. To be able to do a solar analysis, just to see the radiation impact that the sun might have if you want to add in sun shading for whatever reason, or brise-soleil. I'm just going to click analyze on that, and you can see when I hover over it tells me what the radiation values are. So that's the south facing facade, obviously that's going to be higher. I'll go to the north facing facade and you'll see the kilowatt hour per square meter of radiation impact on that as well. So just to be able to do early design analysis, and you can export all of that as an image. And then to be able to add materials, it has a number of built-in materials, but you can also create your own materials as well. I'm just going to add glazing onto that. There are many different choices, but let's go for the first one I find. And once I have that element or that facade selected, and that's added glass to that already. And I can also do the same with this as well, by adding brick or any type of material that I want. Creating your own material, as I said as well. So I'm just going to create a brick. Find my brick, this one. Just select that. So you can see that as added materials there. You can export this using A360. You can also import other 3D model formats as well. You can import an image if it's a sketch that you've done of a floor plan or of design. You can bring it in, you can draw over that as well. And you can also do energy analysis using Insight 360, which I'll just touch on briefly. And it's good for early stage analysis to see window to wall ratios, what sort of energy use that might have, and then you can further develop that into Revit as well. So that's just to show you an example of at a design stage what you can get using other software other than Revit, but then you can obviously import that into Revit as well. So then moving along your design process into planning stage, what are some of the challenges that you might meet after you've done initial design or early concept analysis? So it might be a problem being able to communicate your design, being able to check floor areas before it goes for planning, making sure they comply with local standards or making sure they meet the client's brief. But again, as I said, having separate drawings can be a challenge of this stage as well. Having design drawings that were created or saved in a different folder and don't relate to necessarily design updates of the floor plan in relation to the elevation. And then we've all seen invalidations in planning applications which we don't want to see, which can happen from missing information on drawings. A window is shown in a floor plan but it's not shown in an elevation. This can all happen within a traditional process. And then even from creation of contextual elevations, being able to draw curved or oblique views of buildings or roofs or surrounding context of a site within Revit, as long as you've modeled the whole site, or even by using Format, you just place an elevation view and it will automatically generate all your drawings for that. So it omits the need to be able to figure out tricky details and tricky drawing challenges as well. So looking then at some of the planning solutions, we're able to communicate our designs better by being able to produce cut floor plans like this directly in Revit. We're then able to send them up to Autodesk rendering in the cloud using cloud credits, and we're able to present these to a client as well. So it helps designers and architects and engineers interrogate their designs in a better way for their own benefit, but also be able to communicate that to clients as well. So this is the login for Autodesk rendering. So this is a cloud service from within Revit, you're able to send it directly to the cloud, and usually in a matter of minutes, you'll get a high quality render back like the previous image I've showed just here. So that's Autodesk Cloud Rendering. So then moving through as your design develops, what about producing all your drawings? For those of you that are familiar with Revit or those you're not, drawings are automatically created within Revit. So your 3D model is directly related to your elevation. If a window gets deleted somewhere, it automatically gets deleted. So hopefully avoiding any nasty invalidations for planning as well. So being able to track room areas as well. So there's a simple tool in Revit called room tags. You just place it once, and then you're automatically able to create a schedule of your room areas. And then you're able to check these, do they comply with local standards? You can also output them to Excel and link them, do a live link to Excel, and they'll update as your room size changes as well. So looking at that coordinated and that connected information again as part of a BIM workflow. And these are quite easy wins as well as soon as you start using Revit or BIM workflows. These are the initial things that you'll find great benefit in, and even speaking from my own experience as well. And then moving your design further along, you might go to a pre-planning meeting with the local council or your local authority, and you want to be able to communicate your design. So you can bring along a laptop or even an iPad, and you're able to present using Revit Live or Autodesk Revit Live. And this is done directly from within Revit. You just export it as a file. It's uploaded to the cloud, and in a matter of minutes later, you have a virtual reality file as well. So this is the dialog screen here. It just takes a few minutes and basically 2 clicks, and you have the file from within Revit as well. And you can export this as just an exe file, so it can be opened on any computer. It doesn't people don't necessarily have to have access to Revit or access to Revit Live at all. And then we can use further processes like communicating our designs using the likes of virtual reality headsets, the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive, or even the Google Cardboard, and this can all be done by using that process. And we can further enhance these 3D models if you have 3D Studio Max skills or even 3D Studio Max Interactive. There's a few quick tips you can bring your Revit Live model into, and you can enhance materials and lighting. So if you're presenting it, it looks a lot better and it communicates your design in quite a more effective manner as well. So moving from your planning stage, looking at detailed design stage, so moving into the tender and the production stage of a project, on any size project, whether it's domestic, residential or large complex commercial building, these stages still occur, and there's still a traditional process that is still followed, but there are benefits to be had from a BIM workflow. So some of the challenges we might see are tricky detail junctions of where a roof might meet a wall, or it could be a detail of a head height going through a stairs that can get missed, and I've missed them myself in projects, and that are then discovered on site, and then some sort of remedial works have to occur, and work has to be undone, and it's additional cost either to the client or even to the contractor as well. And then we also have the production of tender information as well. So a lot of information from room schedules, door schedules, window schedules, all disconnected information in a traditional workflow. But looking at using the likes of Revit in a BIM workflow, you're able to create all that information automatically, and it's all coordinated as well. You can also further enhance that information by adding cost to it, adding a cost to a door. This door cost X amount. If it gets deleted, the cost of your project can automatically get updated as well. And you can even output that information again to Excel and share that if there's a quantity surveyor involved, or link it back to your bill of materials as well. We're also able to link in specification. This can be quite a disconnected process in a traditional workflow, creating a separate Word document or updating a separate PDF document that's completely disconnected within from your CAD drawings as well. And then also we have to do a lot of collaboration at this stage as well. So with the likes of consultants, between architects, engineers, surveyors, and being able to coordinate all these people together and all the different design information, so separate drawings, making sure they match up. But sometimes in a 2D process, these certain things that would be cut in 3D aren't seen in a 2D process either. So the likes of being able to have cut sections at any stage of the process. So looking at the detailed design, I suppose from a surveyor's point of view, the likes of laser scanning and drone scanning, being able to capture that information, being able to push that information using the likes of Recap Pro, bring that into Revit, if it's the site context or your site topography or existing buildings, you're able to bring in that as a point cloud, and then you're able to convert that within Revit into intelligent building objects as well. And this can help you inform you, and it's better collaboration between architects and surveyors and engineers as well for existing site conditions. And then looking at creating your detailed drawings as well, so looking at automatically creating sections, looking at annotation notes that are automated as a result of the materials you have in there, and assigning specification notes to particular materials. So you might have an insulation and you might call up a particular manufacturer or producer of that, and the installation instructions of that. So as long as you apply that to one place in the material, it will replicate wherever you place that material again. So Revit also has quite powerful 2D details, so you're able to cut through your BIM model. You can add in 2D information for whatever reason if you want on particular 1:5 or 1:10 details, but all the tools are there to be able to create 2D and 3D details as well. Being able to create 3D cut sections through your building just to see how junctions of certain areas might occur where there could be head height issues, but being able to, even in this example, being able to render that and show that to a client or even to the contractor, to being able to explain where certain details occur, and before they get to site they're able to see these details without having to lose time on site or cause any rework on site. Looking at specification and integrated specification workflow, there is an MBS plugin for the likes of Revit, and this can automate a lot of your specification. So if you have the plugin installed within Revit, you can select your roof, for example, and you can then apply your specification from your MBS guidance and your clauses within that, and then you can automatically output that to your NBS specification and PDF document as well. So automating a lot of that, and if something gets deleted, then it won't get included. So really saving a lot of manual process there for somebody having to run through that process. So looking at the specification as well, but then being able to create your door schedules as well, and as I mentioned already, being able to count all of your doors and to be able to quantify all of them and put a cost alongside them as well is very simply done within Revit, and being able to coordinate that with your quantity surveyor as well and share that information through Excel if they wish to work that way also. And then looking at collaboration, so looking at the likes of the new BIM360 design, formerly known as Collaboration for Revit, is now being rebranded as BIM360 design. So this allows you to work directly within a Revit model, being able to sync your designs to the cloud. And I'll just show you a brief example of that as well. So being able to work within Revit, so you could be an architect or an engineer and you could be working with another consultant company, and they could be updating their structural model or their architectural model, and a change occurs. So I'm just going to jump into Revit here. So this is a model that I've already synced to the cloud. So we can see here that in the top toolbar under Collaborate, I've already synced this to the cloud. If I make changes to this, I can hit synchronize now. Then if a person working in another office, another part of my own office, or a different company, either in the same country outside Ireland or within the UK, they're able to reload the latest and pull down all of the changes that I have made to the architectural model. For example, if I've moved a wall or anything, they're able to see this. And then once they check that, they can go to, they can log into the cloud. They're able then to compare those drawings using BIM360 design. So just for example, this is a sample model I have here. So they're able to design and compare different versions of cloud as well. So this is a different design, but this could be working remotely. And I'll show another example as well of how you compare different versions as well. So just to show you the link from Revit pushing information up to the cloud and somebody else being able to retrieve that information as well at detailed design stage. So I'll just jump back into the presentation here and I'll just do a bit more on BIM 360 design. So as I said, BIM 360 design is the new collaboration for Revit, and it's been rebranded as BIM 360 design, and this allows you to carry out cloud work sharing, and it allows you to share your BIM models from within Revit. You can then view this information using BIM 360 docs. You can create your custom folder setup, and you can coordinate between different disciplines as well. And this is a screenshot of design collaboration. So on the top here, they call this the swim lane. You might have different consultants, and it will show at each stage in time when that person updated their Revit model or their integrated model as well. So this could be for any project size, but looking at that as a coordinated process from within Revit as well, and all the changes are tracked along this swim lane as well. So this has been able to compare versions and been able to see what has changed. So for example, here on the right hand side, it tells us that one thing has been added. If you zoom out on the model, you will see that it's highlighted in green. One item has been removed, and then you can see in the result list it actually tells you what those items are. So the item that's been added is a hollow structural section column, and then what's been removed is the same item as well, or a similar item as well. And it also tells you if items have been modified, and that's the yellow legend there. And the yellow legend you can see refers to the floor as well. So the floors have changed as well, and it will also give you a square meter of what has changed as well. So if a floor has increased or reduced in size, it will give you that that floor area as well. And this is all again through BIM 360 design and collaborating in the cloud as well. So this is the view that will appear in your browser after your model has been synced to the cloud. Somebody can access this in the cloud, but then on their side within Revit, they can retrieve these changes and load those changes into their Revit model as well. So I suppose the browser or the cloud sits in between two different companies or two different consultants' Revit models. So you also have a project home screen, so you can track any changes and you're able to see various different types of information, and you can also assign RFIs and issues to the design model as well. After you inspect it, you might query why something has changed, but you're able to view, because that is automated, it's not a manual checking process, it reduces any errors or design changes being missed. So this is an example of the home screen, but you can see you have field issues. You're able to create checklists as well and document issues, and this connects back into the construction process as your building moves along from the design process as well. So looking at some design tools for engineers, there's also advanced steel, which allows you to create shop drawings, automated bill of materials, and there is a workflow from Revit as well. So it's not just architecture I'm focusing on today, but also looking at the entire part of a design project as well, and everybody that's involved. This can also be outputted to NC files that are used for CNC machines, a common format that's used out there as well. And that's just an example of advanced steel, and the screenshot shows a railings and some steel platform there as well. There's also vehicle tracking as well, being able to add this as an additional service to your client, or being able to charge your client for this as well, or even being able to just run it as a checking process within your own design as well, to see that swept paths and parking layouts have met certain standards. So also we have Infraworks. You could be looking from a developer or a house builder point of view. We have Infraworks that can create road layouts from an engineer's point of view, but also from a house builder's point of view. You can then bring in your Revit model. So we see all the houses in here are actually Revit models, and they've been linked into the Infraworks model. So Infraworks creates infrastructure, so it could be site layouts, road layouts, and it could be construction layouts as well, and you're able to integrate all that into the same workflow. So looking at Civil 3D, also being able to create roads and various different civil designs, but being able to integrate that into your BIM workflow as well. And what we also have is the Revit Precast plugin. Works similarly to Advanced Steel, except it's a plugin within Revit itself. You're able to create rebar schedules, and you're able to output your shop drawings to that as well. So it works quite well with fairly flat and fairly straight precast wall and floor and roof panels as well. So it's worth in installing and having a look at that. And it's free to install as far as I know as well. And then also we have the desktop connector. So this allows you to connect to your files on your Windows Explorer within your own machine. This automatically connects to your BIM 360 file, so you can retrieve them and you can work on them directly from the cloud as well within your Windows Explorer, the same method that you might search for files on a project or a network server. So then moving on to the construction challenges as well, and looking at the construction process. So we see when a project gets a site, there's often missing information, there can be unforeseen issues, and then being able to track variations in a project, being able to track changes that have occurred in a project, not just noting them down in a notepad or putting them into a Word file or an email. You're able to track them as well as part of the BIM process using BIM 360, and then obviously a lot of liability and responsibility around BCAR inspections and building control inspections. So being able to create checklists to enhance that process as well, integrated into your BIM workflow. And then we find a lack of information on the site as well. So being able to access information, if as a designer you go to site, you mightn't have all the information to hand, but being able to access that using the likes of iPads and mobile devices as well. And then being able to having to print drawings the day before you go to site and not always having the right drawings with you the next day at site, being able to retrieve that again using iPads and mobile devices is part of a BIM workflow. And then being able to record any changes that occur on site. So if a wall has moved, specification of a material has changed at all, being able to record that as well. So looking at having an iPad on site, being able to access your 3D model as well. If you're going somewhere without internet connection, you can download all the files in offline mode, access them then, or if you have a 3G or 4G connection on site, you're able to access those files as well. So this can be handy for site meetings, for contractors as well, or if all the consultants are attending a site meeting, you're able to share all this information. And you can use mirroring apps as well, that you can send any information from an iPad to a screen if there's a site office, depending on the size of the project. So always having the right information to hand. Then also being able to do clash detection as well at construction stage or pre-construction stage. So using the likes of Navisworks, being able to clash mechanical or structural to the architectural model. And you can see here that the element highlights in different color if there's a clash found within the model. So automating all that process before these issues are found on site. And then also being able to track contractor progress on site as well. If a contractor has issues assigned to them, you can see which firm has the most issues or which room location has the most issues assigned to it, and you're able to then assess the problem and see where the issue might be as well. And also being able to create checklists or keep a note of issues on site, but doing it digitally and doing it on an iPad. So for example, you can see here in the image, a contractor and a consultant on site, and they're able to inspect the 3D model. But then within the 3D model, they can assign issues to that location as well. So if they pull up a 3D model of a room, they can see where the door location was intended to go in the design. and for whatever reason within the construction or on-site process, it was moved for some particular reason, and that can be captured and recorded as an issue if it's required on site as well. So if there's any snagging issues or anything as well, that can also be assigned. And then again, being able to access quite detailed information using the likes of BIM 360 docs on site as well. And also, yeah, as I mentioned, looking at snagging as well. So you can capture snagging information at your handover or completion phase. You're able to capture photographs within BIM 360 docs, and you can assign that to a snagging issue list as well. Those issues can then be assigned to a certain contractor, and that contractor or designer will then get an email to notify them that certain issues have been assigned to them. And then moving from construction phase into your completion stage as well. So looking at building sign-off, having a record of your inspections and going back through the inspections to make sure you're happy with the sign-off of that building. And as I said, being able to create snagging lists as well and capture as-built information. So using the likes of BIM 360 Docs, it's a cloud platform and it stores all of your files in one location that can be retrieved and shared from your design office, but can be captured and retrieved on site as well for site meetings or in any remote location. So looking at creating various different folder structures, and you can assign certain permissions to those folder structures as well. Being able to mark up 2D drawings and 3D models and assign issues and being able to mark issues on iPads as well that may have occurred when you visited the site. And then being able to access your 3D model and being able to view what the design intent of that building was, or being able to just use it to communicate to a client or to a contractor on what the building is intended to look like as well before it nears completion. And then again, all of the activity within BIM 360 Docs is tracked, so who made changes, who deleted files, who viewed what files. So there's a complete record there of if somebody has checked drawings, has created issues, and they're all it's all tracked information there as well. So what about looking at other stages? So looking at the likes of if you're an estate agency or a building developer or house builder, looking at being able to sell or promote your projects before they go to site. So being able to sell up front and faster are some of the challenges. And we see that customers expect more as well. So they're used to seeing 3D models, so that it's almost an expectation now. And sometimes this can be decoupled from the design as well. So having the ability to feed upgrades of the building and to be able to feed that into the design plans as well and make the changes. So being able to record those changes on site. So being able to communicate your design, as I already mentioned, at your design phase, but being able to communicate that in a different sense, as I said, if you're trying to sell or promote the sale of a building, being able to create different design options and cycle through those different design options, but being able to roll back to any of those design options as well is another feature within Revit. And then as we've seen, using the likes of Infraworks, being able to design your site and your landscaping and bring in all of your Revit information into that as well and place it and then create fly-through animations of that also. We can also move that further and take your designs and push that into the likes of 3D Max and create quite photorealistic images to be able to communicate your design intent. And as I touched on already, Revit Live as well, being able to access that and show your designs in a 3D method as well. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. So just to summarize, we've gone through connected workflows, looking at different workflows, even outside of Revit and beyond Revit, and looking into the likes of Navisworks, but looking into cloud technologies as well. And then obviously that goes beyond Revit, but then looking at the holistic connected information. So taking information from Formas, bringing it into Revit, pushing that information into Navisworks, then pushing that information up to the cloud, and then reusing that information using the likes of BIM 360 Docs on site, being able to attach issues and RFIs to your 3D models on site using iPads, and then being able to hand over that information to your homeowner or local authority as well. So just before I go to a Q&A, I'll have a few minutes to spare at the end. Just there is a webinar on May the 10th. It's part of this SME series, and it will look at a more high-level overview of BIM implementation across the design process. So what are the do's and don'ts? What workflows might you do to apply it across a company level rather than just at a project level? So if you want to join that webinar, it's May the 10th, and I'll do a bit of a recap on the previous webinars as well. So we'll jump into a Q&A now. So if anybody has any questions, please fire away. So thank you everybody for your time. Sorry, you have a question through there. I will address that question in email, but thanks for sending that one through. So thanks everybody for your time, and hopefully see you on the May 10th webinar, where I will be focusing a bit more specifically on the actual features of the software as well, and how they integrate into a BIM workflow, and how you might get up and running as well, and some of the issues that you might overcome. Thank you very much.